Like any away match, in some ways I preferred away games because I could sit and have a pint before, watch the match, and a pint afterwards. Whereas home games, you tend to be a bit busy and not see all the games. So, but yes, it was it was interesting the first time I sat in the Royal Box to find that there was no carpet in there, which I assume only went down for the FA Cup, and there was more cigarette burns in the floor, or the lino on the floor, I think I've ever seen. It was incredible. The other surprising thing was when I went in the dressing room the first time, and they'd got like these green filing cabinets, and they were the players' lockers, and I expected something a bit more swish than that, but it was unusual. It was unusual.
Again, it was just one of them situations where you knew something was afoot when you went into the ground, because there was hundreds of people with these green berets on and shouting loads of different things, and the game started quite quiet really, and they scored, so everything was sort of quite passive, and then all of a sudden we equalised and then scored 3 goals in about 15 minutes, and that was it. You know, there was police involved, dogs, people invaded the pitch, and we just all sort of went to run into the changing rooms, and you know, everyone was there except for they lost Steve King, and then they found him was hiding at the top of the stands behind one of the chairs, which was quite a funny situation. But no, it was pretty frightening at the time. But again, it's something I think you just deal with and get on with.
Why did I say it? I mean, I think at the time you could perhaps take advantage of the fact that we got the media coverage. We went there and there were banners and signs all over the place. Enfield will be camel fodder, but I think, as it should have been, we should have won that day. And we certainly were the better side in Barnsley, and gave an extremely good account of ourselves. So, you know, I'm not saying that the comments which Norman Hunter, who was their manager at the time, absolutely he enjoyed them, but it certainly made nearly 30,000 people come to that game, and a further 40,000 came to the replay. So £70,000 for camel fodder is not too bad.
The only way Mum was involved, she did run the tea bar for a little while, and in the boardroom she used to make the tea and coffees, but she wasn't really into football, to be honest.
She repaired the kits.
Yeah.
She kept that football club going by changing numbers on shirts, repairing the kit when they didn't have a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, Dad's routine was that at those days they used to have a big bath, and all the dirty shirts and that were chucked in the bath, so all the mud came off. Then they were all bagged up and taken to a woman down the local laundrette. Yeah. Yeah.
I was asked this question once before, and there were 4 players who, to me, for various reasons, typify Enfield Football Club, and they all were playing about the time that I started watching the club. There was the captain at the time was a lad called Tony Jennings, who was the England semi-professional captain. He played over 400 games for the club, and he was just one of those players. He gave heart and soul to the club. He was dependable, and if you speak to any of the players who played alongside him, he was just a wonderful chap as well as a wonderful footballer. A defender, left back called John Tone, who was only about 5'6", but would run himself into the ground for the club. He would put so much effort in. Wasn't the most talented of players, but he gave everything he could for the club. Steve King, again played about 600 games for the club. Loved the club so much that once he stopped playing, he helped out the supporters team. And when you speak to him, his love of the club was as great as any fans. And possibly the most talented player I ever saw was a player called Noel Ashford, who, had he wished, could have played possibly at any level in the football. And again, if you ask most fans who was the best player they ever saw, if they watched Enfield in the 1980s, they'll say Noel Ashford.